Thank you, Shell. First up on our focus at 4, it is the biggest news of the day, arguably a massive announcement today in the accusations of sexual assault against Bill Cosby.
A couple of things we want to show you here. We'll begin with this. Take a look at this, the mugshot of Bill Cosby. How surreal is this right here? He has been charged now with sexual assault more than a decade after a former Temple University employee told police that the comedian drugged and violated her at his home near Philadelphia.
Dentist.
For the first time, Bill Cosby is facing criminal charges in connection with the sexual assault of a woman. Citing new information, the actor and comedian is now facing 1 count of aggravated indecent assault.
These charges stem from a sexual assault that took place on an evening in early 2004 at Mr. Cosby's home in Cheltenham Township, Montgomery County.
Attorneys for former Temple University employee Andrea Constant confirmed the charges connected to her. She says during that visit to Cosby's home, he gave her medication and wine that made her dizzy, and she felt paralyzed. She awoke to find her clothes in disarray. And what will surely be very closely watched and discussed, Cosby is expected to be arraigned Wednesday afternoon in Pennsylvania. He has strongly proclaimed his innocence and has countersued several of his accusers. In a deposition released last summer, Cosby said any sex and drug taking were always consensual. I'm Steve Nannis reporting.
And that arraignment did take place. In fact, take a look at this just into the newsroom video of Bill Cosby arriving. You see with an investigator there on one side of him, lots of media covering this. There were people in the background, some of in the crowd there yelling, booing him as he entered the police station there in Pennsylvania. But man, that's
To see this finally happen.
Bill Cosby.
This is Bill Cosby right there. And of course, as these allegations have come from dozens upon dozens of women, we've all sort of watched in disbelief that this is happening. But the argument has always been, well, there have never actually been any charges against him. And now still, of course, innocent until proven guilty in the court system. But the fact that there is a charge and now legally there is something to point at and something to say about these allegations is, as you mentioned, looking at that mugshot, it is surreal.
All right, now to the other story that's got a lot of people fired up. An official in Mexico says that a teenage fugitive from right here in Texas, the teenager who used the affluenza defense, has been granted a 3-day delay in deportation back here to the Lone Star State.
This kid is infamous by now. This comes after 18-year-old Ethan Couch, that's his name, he won a court injunction.
An anonymous official with Mexico's Migration Institute revealed the information earlier today, which was when Couch and his mother were scheduled to be sent back to the United States. They were supposed to be back in Texas today. They were scheduled to fly back to Houston after authorities said that a phone call for pizza led to their capture in the Mexico resort city that they were hiding in. They were being held at immigration offices in Guadalajara.
Phone call for pizza, that'll bring you down. Couch and his mother spent 3 days in a rented condo at a resort development before they found an apartment in a less glitzy area, something a little less expensive. One of the condo's employees told law enforcement where Couch and his mother were staying, and Mexican detectives then found the apartment and staked it out.
The police reports state that when they approached them, they were getting their names confused. They didn't have any identification on them. So, you know, and I think the part that really fires up everybody about this is the fact that his mom, if everything plays out as it could in court, his mom could actually spend more time in prison than he could. And I'll bring this up real quickly. I was talking to a woman earlier today. We're not parents, but I was talking to a woman earlier who is a mother, and she said, look, I don't support anything that they're doing, but I can kind of see, from a mother's standpoint, standing behind your son and wanting to do what's best for him, even if he's done wrong. Just think about that for a second.
That's a tough one.
Put yourself in a mom's shoe, and you're trying to protect your kid. It can maybe, you know.
Along those same lines, I do just think it's interesting how much the parents have been involved in this whole case. The whole thing was affluenza. He was never held accountable, and now
they basically blame the parents. For
this has been so much more
stuff.
about his parents, honestly, than it has about him. Hey, New Year's Eve celebrations in Paris will be unusually tense, and understandably so, after the November attacks that left 130 people dead, hundreds of others injured.
Yeah, special safety precautions are now in place instead of cancellations due to those terroristic threats.
France's defense minister stressed today the need for special vigilance, full mobilization, and a very significant presence of security forces. About 60,000 police and troops are deployed across France for these celebrations.
This is what's interesting. The city of Paris has actually canceled the fireworks show that was planned. Instead of the fireworks show, they're going to be doing a 5-minute video performance that'll be relayed on big screens just before midnight there. So they are making some changes to make sure
I think
everything
those
goes
sounds
fine.
just a little less disturbing there. 600,000 people gathered in Paris last year on New Year's Eve. Thousands still expected, maybe less though, and all under the protection of those security forces.
All right. Hey, even days after the rainfall that we received over the weekend, we're still seeing a lot of the flooding and the effects of some of the rain that we got over the last couple of days. But the Midwest is bracing for some historic record level floodings in other states.
It's hard to even look at some of this video. It's prompted mandatory evacuations in Missouri and Illinois, and so far 20 people have died.
Floodwaters trapped a man on top of his pickup truck near St. Louis. A fire truck towed him to safety as water poured out of the vehicle. It's just one of a number of rescues today as rivers and streams reach records.
Water levels in some locations are predicted to exceed the historic crest during the Great Flood of 1993.
Back then, 150 major rivers and tributaries flooded, killing 50 people. Today in Eureka, the destruction is everywhere. Water is creeping up next to the high school. Roads are now rivers. Trailers are underwater. So are homes. Teams are lining sandbags next to homes and businesses, but much of the flood protection isn't protecting anything.
What I'm seeing right now are some sandbags that have not worked like they were meant to be.
Other sandbag barriers will likely be submerged soon. Nearly 20 levees along the Mississippi River and its tributaries could fail, which would cause even greater problems. Residents have evacuated 2 of the hardest hit towns. The Mississippi is still climbing and is expected to reach almost 15 feet above flood stage tomorrow. Marley Hall, CBS News, West Alton, Missouri.
And if that river there in Missouri reaches those levels, this is going to be the second worst flood on record there since they've been keeping records of that kind of stuff. Man.
All right. Well, thoughts with them. That is a lot to deal with. Hey, stick with us right after the break. We are talking about those weight loss goals that you may or may not have for New Year's resolution. Yeah, maybe me too. And how to stick to them. We've got some tips on how to really make that attainable goal.
And we'll be back after this.